Let's dig into your journey, Chris. So your journey from a college athlete, you battled depression to a successful personal training career. It's truly an incredibly inspiring story. I did a little bit of homework. Okay. Now, what pivotal moment or realization helped you turn a challenging time into a launch pad for your current success?
Yeah, so I have a few of them. I actually started before the pandemic. I started 3 years before the pandemic. And one of the sparks for me, we'll just talk about after college. I wanted to play professionally overseas, and that wasn't working out for me. And sometimes as an athlete, I know this is common for basketball, football, baseball, maybe some other sports. But when you grow up and that's all you do, and that's what consumes your life, and you don't do anything else, when the game is taken away from you out of nowhere, like you're not expecting it, hit a depression phase. So
how long did it last?
How long did the depression phase last?
Yeah.
About 9-10 months.
Yeah.
So I started working at the front desk of the gym where I started training. And I'm telling you, I had coaches, former teammates coming in, guys that made it to the NBA, old girlfriends coming in, and they saw me as this basketball player. Now I'm a front desk guy. So I look like a loser to them. And it was the most embarrassing. It was the hardest thing, one of the hardest times of my life. And that's when I was like, you know what? I never want to feel like this again. So that was a spark for me.
Your spark is a theme that has arisen over the last couple of weeks as we've invited more retired athletes, successful athletes who've identified with one thing, Chris, an athlete.
Yep.
And then one of our colleagues, one of our partners here in the lab is a former NHL athlete, Dale Weiss. Mm-hmm. He has a segment on Fridays called Life After the Buzzer, talking to athletes like himself, like yourself, saying, oh, I used to be a hockey player. I used to be a basketball player. Now what am I? I used to be a football player. Now what am I? I used to be a tennis player. Now what am I? You went through exactly that phase, didn't you?
Absolutely. And one thing my father said to me coming out of college, he was like, look, if basketball doesn't work out, you're still a great guy. You're my son. I'm always going to love you, whether you play basketball or not. And that kind of lightened up the mood a little bit to where I was like, hey, I can still do something else. But yeah, it's hard when you're attached to that sport and you've done nothing else. No matter what lane I went in, I was a little bit nervous. And so luckily, personal training fell in my lap.
Yeah. So you end up at the gym. So let's go through the story then. You end up at the gym. Your term, I'm a front desk guy. Yeah. And your term, you felt like people thought of you as a loser.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they did. Yeah.
They did.
I thought that's what I know. Yeah.
That's hilarious. So it's okay. Let's go down that path. So they think you're a loser. You're like, to hell with that. I'm not a loser. I'm an athlete. I'm a successful dude. What did you do when you went home and reflected on the fact that they thought you were a loser?
So I knew every day I got to work on my next move, right? Because if I became successful, I know basketball wasn't a waste. If I become a loser, basketball was a waste, right? So what I did was I used my degree at the time to go on any job interview. I got my degree in sports management. Some were sports teams, some were, it's in a school of business. So I went on to different businesses, went on interviews, got rejected on all of them. So that was one thing. One thing that kept me sane was working out every day. When you work at a gym, you get a free membership. And I was still pursuing basketball, talking to different agents. And as I'm in the gym every day, this trainer kept coming up to me. He was like, bro, you need to be a trainer. He was like, you're already athletic. You're in here every day. You're committed. He was like, just be a trainer. And I kept telling him no. Finally, I told him yes, passed the test. He got me a discount on the certification for $150. Certifications are usually like $1,000. So that was a steal. So I don't even know why I kept saying no to that. But anyway, what I did was before that, I missed out on something I wanted to mention. When I worked the front desk, I switched my hours to overnight when no management was there, nobody was there. So all I did was work out and study for my personal training test while I was on the clock.
So that's a valuable tip.
Yeah.
Like it really is. That's a tip / technique for the audience, right? Like you had the awareness to say, okay, if I can work overnight, I can do much more than just having to work. And
absolutely,
good on you for figuring that out.
Yeah. So my friends, like whenever they wanted to do stuff, I'm like, no, I'm working. They're like, why are you working at night? That's weird.
Yeah.
You know how it goes. So, but You can't get caught up in that. When you got a vision, you got to go, you got to be locked in, you got to stick with it. Just straight tunnel vision. And once I got the certification, I basically built my business off of all my basketball contacts. So former teammates, girlfriends, their parents, their siblings, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. And that built the foundation of my business using family members of my former teammates and basketball connects.
You weren't afraid to use your clout.
Exactly.
Good for you. Some would call it network. Some would call it influence.
Yep.
You just weren't afraid to pick up the phone and say, hey, here's what I'm doing. Let's do some business together.
Yep. And social media, just posting every day. So
talk about that. Talk about how you grew your brand across social media and how you grew your business on really Instagram, Instagram and YouTube.
Mostly Instagram. Yeah, mostly Instagram.
Yeah.
And that sucked at first. I'll be honest with you, because like I said, you grow up as a basketball player. People used to be posting highlights, pictures, playing against the high major schools. And so when I first started posting training, people made fun of me. People were like, oh, you're a bodybuilder now. And a lot of negative comments, like people legit laughing at me, put me in a group chat, making jokes. There was not a lot of support at first, including family. Family, when are you going to get a real job? Is this sustainable? Are you going to be okay? And so it was hard to shift my brand from basketball player to trainer. The more I posted, the more I educated, the more I motivated people, it just changed. Nobody even remembers that I played basketball now. They look at me as a trainer.
I was just going to ask you that question. At what point did the light flip the switch for both yourself and for your customers, that you were no longer the basketball guy, that I'm the fitness trainer? Like, you're a proud fitness trainer. You're clearly good at what you do. You have looks like you have a good roster of clients based on what I've seen across your media platforms, but you're a proud fitness trainer. You really are.
Absolutely.
You're good at it.
Yeah. So that took about a solid year.
Yeah.
Of consistency and consistently posting before the perception of Chris Martin changed, and I became CMartyFit, and I became less brunches, more crunches. So I had to hammer it down their heads pretty much.
I noticed that less brunches, more crunches, and I want to get to that in a few moments. But what are some of the common misconceptions about getting in shape that you frequently encounter as a passionate fitness trainer? And what truths can you share, CMartyFit, that can debunk some of those myths?
Yeah, man, I could talk about this all day. But one big misconception is people think they have to be in the gym all day, right? And if you look at the fittest people, I just watched a video before I spoke to you, and this guy was talking about he does an hour and 15 minutes 4 times a week. So let's cut that down to an hour. Let's say he does an hour a week.
Sure.
Out of 168 hours in a week, he does 4 hours. So you have 164 hours to do whatever else. Be a parent, work, side hustle, be a great husband. Whatever it is that you want to do, you have plenty of time to do that. But most people aren't willing to just make the sacrifice for that 1 hour, a couple times a week. So you don't have to be in the gym all day. And we're talking to athletes here. So athletes, you have the leg up to get in shape, right? Especially if you made it to collegiate or the pro level. You worked on that skill your whole life. So if I'm a basketball player and I'm a 90% free throw shooter, I've probably been shooting free throws since I was 8 years old. I didn't become a 90% free throw shooter once I got to college or once I got to the league. Chances are I've been great at free throws my whole life. And that skill just compounds. So the same is with being fit and getting in shape. That your results are going to compound the more you do it. So you dedicate those 4 hours per week. Over 2 years, you're going to look like a completely different person. You're going to be a different person. Your mental is going to be different. You're going to move different. You're going to solve problems differently. A lot of people they got that part messed up.
Why is it though, Marty? Why is it so difficult for many people to deliver the other 164 hours?
I think people, when you're facing a difficult task or something that seems impossible, because sometimes getting in shape seems impossible to people. I think the first thing to do is just throw out an excuse, look for a crutch. Oh, I can't do it because of this. I can't do it because of this. And it's like, no, there's someone who did it in your position. I know we're talking to mostly men here, but a lot of my moms, they'll be like, I got kids, I can't do it. The gyms across the world are filled with moms. So they're filled with dads. Like,
it's true. It's true.
Or they'll go, ladies like dad bod, so I'll just stay like this. No, you just don't want to put the work in. You don't want to put the work in. And chances are, if you stay the same, you're not going to be a better man for whatever woman that you're dealing with, whether that's your wife, girlfriend, or whoever.
And I know you believe in this as well, but it's really the holistic view of, like, to me, the gym is a metaphor, Chris, for mental health, emotional health, physical health, strength, agility, mobility, right? But it's recovery. It's this idea of hitting the gym every single day is the metaphor of what happens in the lab, right? So you got to do something to take care of your machine first, right? That to me is really what that principle is all about. And that's what we try to inspire our audience to do, is just to get their head wrapped around, just do something. And then when somebody says to me, Chris, Keith, I don't have an extra half an hour to do something, or 45 minutes. I don't know how you've weaved it into your life, but I know Chat GPT can save somebody 30, 45, 60 minutes if they take some time writing some good prompts and shaving off an hour of work in their day so they can go put it back into themselves. So don't give me that excuse anymore. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I actually used Chat GPT for a caption today. So I'm not sitting around writing on Instagram all day.
So there you go, right? A technique coming from Chris, right? So you're saving, let's say, 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day. You can put that back into yourself, back into your business. And I don't think I think, Chris, when some people say, I don't want to go and learn it and I don't want to go embrace it, I don't really recognize what it can do for them, like selfishly them. So if that gives you an extra 10 minutes to go do some stretching or go for a walk, like, you're going to say, I'm going to go do it now.
Absolutely.
Where does the foundation of Chris come from? You mentioned your dad. Like, you just didn't wake up one day as a driven young man. Have you been just right from day one, Chris, really structured and systematic human being? Has that been ingrained in you from day one?
Yeah, I've stayed in basketball my whole life. So I always had structure, always had a tournament, a camp. I was always doing something. My mom was big on, hey, this summer you're going to be going here, or she'd be like, where do you want to go? Because you're not just going to sit around in the house all summer and play video games. So I'm always used to doing something. I don't even feel right sitting in the house watching a TV show that I like. Sometimes sometimes I'm like, all right, you can relax for an hour, Chris, but get back to work. But it's just always doing stuff. And then when I was in college, one of the schools I went to, they kept us busy. They kept us busy all day. It was crazy, man. Like, I'm talking from 7 in the morning when I'm up to 9 o'clock at night. I have a full schedule, and that kind of instilled that structure in me as well. And a lot of people don't have the luxury of playing sports. They don't get that young. When they get in the real world and it's go to the gym 4 or 5 days a week, they don't get that. They've never had structure. And a lot of people don't realize how important that structure is and what it can do for your mental health, and how that can make you better, make you a better parent, a better performance at work, better spouse, better at problem solving. I'm big on problem solving, because whenever I run into an obstacle, I go do my cardio. I'm like, do my cardio. I'm going to think of a solution, because if I act now, I'm going to make the wrong decision. So I go do my cardio. I might even take some notes during my cardio, and I feel much better after, and I can come to that right conclusion.
Chris, you opened the door to this, but last week we had a guest on our show Dr. Lynn Anderson, we spoke about an article in Cosmopolitan that was published and actually came from the Call Her Daddy podcast. And the discussion was around post-nut clarity. And men who have difficulty making a decision just need to go have sex. So guys, Chris goes for a walk. Chris goes for a walk, but Dr. Lynn says go have sex. Now, I wonder if Chris went and had sex and went for a walk, how productive you would be.
Probably be a great decision. But hey, sometimes that might not be the best option. As a single man, I might make the wrong decision. I may have some other shit to deal with after.
Oh man! So
if you're not trying to unbig that back, don't watch the podcast. If you ain't trying to get rid of that belly, don't watch the podcast.